Horst on Horst. When the world opened up for young Germans after World War II, a classmate and I, both with ambition to become either actors or journalists, managed to wrangle a visa from the American military government, and we cycled to Rome and towards Naples. From that time on, I always wanted to travel. A profession that made this possible on expense account seemed just right to me. I didn't get into journalism with great dreams. I looked for work, and journalism appeared an attractive possibility to make a living, where you can enjoy being part of the changing world, see foreign lands close up, with history, where you can express yourself with writing or photography or filmmaking. I was never one who enjoyed going on a quickie assignment, then rushing home again. I was always interested in learning more about current events and the countries and the people that I covered. In the golden age of photojournalism, that was possible. 29 years old, I had never flown in a helicopter. Then, at dawn, one day in late June 1962, I pulled myself aboard a noisy, shaking, and rattling banana-shaped U.S. Army H-21 helicopter following a gaggle of Vietnamese soldiers loaded down with their packs, mortar tubes, a machine gun, and a lot of ammunition. I was traveling light, a plastic case with 3 Leica camera bodies, lenses, some 10 rolls of film, canvas shoes, floppy hat, a backpack with poncho, mosquito net, some canned food, dressed in a Saigon Min the Tailor makeshift uniform, with 2 canteens of water dangling from the belt. Jumping from the banana helicopter into a Mekong Delta rice paddy, I began a journalistic roller coaster adventure that was to last more than a decade. As for so many of my generation, I was born in 1933, who chose the profession of reporting international news. Covering the Vietnam War had a sometimes fatal attraction. Vietnam certainly attracted the best journalists at the time. Among the novices were some of the brightest and most compassionate minds who built their journalistic careers on the cornerstone of their Vietnam experience. Most of us were very young, like the soldiers. Photographers totally convinced that ours was the biggest and most important story in the world. If anybody, especially our editors in New York, questioned the need to be at the bayonet point of the action, I passionately argued back that only by taking the risk could we deliver a truthful, convincing report. I usually won the argument. I coped with danger by trying, first, to recognize it, then be as careful as possible, to do my work the least dangerous way, to sort out my terrain and chances before I raised my camera. Did I set myself any ground rules for my own survival and ability to work with soldiers? Yes. No picture is worth being wounded or killed for. I always tried to be in good shape and health, no hangovers, and carry enough of the right gear, food, and water that I would not depend on any way on troops in the field. If there is a good chance, an overwhelming chance, that you are about to get hurt by doing something, don't do it. I was often in a hole or a trench, just a few meters from where the most fantastic pictures were developing, and sat in hiding for 2 or 3 hours, not going out, because I knew there was an enemy machine gun overlooking open ground. Sometimes it took a lot of willpower not to go places. I wouldn't join bad troops if I could prevent it. Do not get involved in any fighting. It is your privilege and not a sign of cowardice to keep your head down. Stay invisible and use your camera. The soldier has a gun in front of his face. You have a camera in front of yours. That identifies you as a non-combatant, non-participant. Looking back, I did many very foolish things. Today, I know that death was much, often closer than I was willing to admit to myself in those years. Did I suffer a trauma, depression, any syndromes? No. I met no journalist in Vietnam who had a death wish. Nobody wanted to die for the glory of an exclusive picture. There were the careful ones. I considered myself in that category. The young and inexperienced ones tended to be more daring and took chances. There were also the adventurers who pretended to be journalists. Most survivors were just plain lucky. I also consider myself in that category. Most which died ran out of luck. I continued to cover wars after the Vietnam War faded from the headlines. Bangladesh, 1971. World War, 1973. Angola, Rhodesia, Lebanon, to name a few. But following the lead of Larry Burroughs, I always refused to be labeled a war photographer. I just happened to be assigned to cover a war, I used to say. I could photograph politics, sports, and even fashion shows with equal seriousness, or almost. I don't have a favorite picture. They came and went. I have never been looking back until time came to set up a print memorial requiem for the photographers who were killed in Indochina. When Vietnam came to an end, I closed the door and I walked away without any regret. I could even close the door behind my photography just as abrupt as I took it up. Good friends, fellow AP staffers and competitors whom I had met during the early conflicts and were brought together again with in the whirlwind that was Vietnam. They were met again and again in covering post-Vietnam wars. That is the fraternity which is connected until today.